Day 16 of Houston Texans training camp features the entire offensive line finally being together, and Henry Toa and Jalen Pitre are finally starting to take that leap that we all want to see.
Let's get it.
You are Locked On Texans, your daily podcast on the Houston Texans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, everybody, to this Wednesday episode of the Locked On Texans podcast, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you to all of our first-time listeners and viewers. Please do us 3 favors: subscribe, like, and comment to the Locked On Texans podcast on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcast. Thank you to all of our returning guests, our everydayers, coming back to listen to Cody and myself talk Texans here on this show. I'm your Texans football analyst, John Some Sports Guy Hickman. On the other side of the screen, Texans credential media member, Cody Davis. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. We can make every moment more. Playoffs are now over with. The NFL is around the corner, and this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Cody, good day for the offense, man. Take us away.
Yes, sir. On this Wednesday installment of Locked On Texans, John and myself will be talking about why the offense had a good day, and not only the offense, but the defense as well. And it all comes by 2 players that we are happy to finally highlight here on this show, Henry Toa and Jalen Pitre. John, you know it's a good day for Henry Toa when I can say his last name with confidence after a season. But then we're going to close out this latest installment of Locked On Texans with some fun by just saying it's a time to give up on Justin Simmons. It seems like he has narrowed his choices down between 2 teams in the NFC. So we're going to close out with that. But John, day 16 of the Houston Texans training camp took place at the Houston Methodist Training Center, and it was by far arguably the best day that the offense had. While receivers was out there making plays, the rushing attack looked really well, and CJ Stroud had one of his best days of training camp by far. Was throwing dimes all over the field. One of the best passes that I've seen him throw came when he connected with Tank Dell in between CJ Henderson and Eric Murray. CJ Stroud looked like he was damn near in mid-form, I must say. However, majority, if not the main reason why the Houston Texans offense looked that good was because finally, for the first time since the start of training camp on July 18, 2024.
It's a long time ago.
Laremy Tunsil, left tackle. Kenyon Green, left guard. Juice Scruggs, center. Shaq Mason, right guard. Tytus Howard, right tackle. The 5 guys that we have been highlighting. John, remember when we had that conversation right before the start of training camp when we was previewing every single position group? We was like, look, if this offensive line stays healthy, it could definitely be one of the best offensive lines in the league. And we finally had an opportunity to see the O-line healthy. And John, I must say, I'm going to commend you with everything that you said when a lot of people, including myself for a brief moment, was looking at Damian Pierce and kind of panicking, man, is it time to hit the panic button? Is it not? And you came on this show and said, look, nobody was going to be able to thrive behind the offensive line that he played with on Friday. That offensive line, they already looked like they was all on one accord after one practice. And this is what Shaq Mason had to say about all 5 guys coming back and the dynamic between all 5 of those guys.
Man, we can be very good. We can be. It's good to have everybody out there just getting on one accord, practicing together. So, I mean, we just out there just trying to take it one day at a time. It's big, man, because like I said, it's all continuity and repetition. That's all this game is, especially O-line, is repetition. And you get the reps, you get on the same page, and then you just take off, like us having all of us there today was, I don't know if that was the first time since we've been together, but I think it was. So, I mean, it was definitely good to see and good to be out there. And, I mean, we just keep stacking days like that.
You love to hear stacking days like that. You love to hear a player, starter for this team, a very important piece for this offensive line, just say things like, we got to stack days like that. We got to continue to put together good days, because the fact of the matter is, guys, as the ice cream truck is passing by my window, but the fact of the matter is, everything starts with this team on both sides of the ball, up front, in the trenches. And you got a chance to see that for the defensive side of the ball. You got a chance to see how impactful Mario Edwards and Foley Fatukasi will be for this team. You got a chance to see the impact Danielle Hunter will bring for this team. You got a chance to see that. And I think for the offensive line, we haven't got a chance to see that. We haven't got a chance to see that at practice. Laremy Tunsil just finally returned back to practice Monday. We haven't got a chance to see that in a game. We've been seeing Chris Reed, Nick Broker, Blake Fisher playing on, both sides of the ball. We've been seeing inconsistencies with the offensive line, and I think that's due to vet days, guys cleaning up. Laremy Tunsil had that knee surgery, cleaning that up, making sure that he's 100% healthy. Tytus Howard going, in and out of practice with injury, so he's back. You gotta give this group that opportunity and time to be healthy, to allow that protection for C.J. Stroud to be able to thread the passes to Brevin Jordan for big gains and hit some of these players like he was able to hit in stride Tuesday. Give him that time to do that, because once he's kept upright, you're looking at a quarterback, and we talk about this all the time, the five-headed monster, right? With Joe Mixon in the backfield, Dalton Schultz at tight end, Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, and Tank Dell. We talk about that five-headed monster a lot. Well, what we really haven't talked about a lot is giving CJ the time to pick your poison with that five-headed beast. And the offensive line is going to play a very important role in that, guys. And so I'm excited to hear, and I'm happy to hear that the offensive line was back today. I'm happy to hear that, Monday we're seeing the reports, Dameon Pierce breaking off some big runs behind who? Laremy Tunsil. Right. Tuesday, C.J. Stroud getting the protection that he needs to be able to hit some of his weapons down the field for big gains. We look at this offense as an offense that we believe can be one of the best offenses in the NFL, and a lot of that is due to the amount of explosive players that they have at their hands, that CJ will have at his hands. And so giving him time to attack some of these players downfield is essential. And I'm happy to hear that the offensive line is back, and Shaq Mason emphasizing it's just not one day. We missed a lot of time together. So we got to stack these days consistently. And I'm going to say this right now. I want to see the entire starting offensive line play against the New York Giants Saturday in their third preseason game of the year.
And I think that it would definitely be a realistic possibility. I mean, it would have been a possibility last Friday against Pittsburgh, but, it was still a couple of people on the sideline. But speaking of people on the sideline, Jeff Okudah, Tegan Cotoriano, Will Anderson Jr., and Christian Harris were all still sidelined during day 16 of training camp. Christian Harris, according to Aaron Wilson of KPRC, is dealing with a calf injury. So, of course, that is something that you definitely want to make sure that you give him time to recover from. However, more good news, Kamari Lassiter, who missed the entire practice last week in Cleveland, he finally made his return with an ankle injury. But looking once again back at Christian Harris, look, we definitely want to see Christian Harris healthy. However, Henry To'o is saying, you know what, guys, it's okay if we miss Christian Harris for maybe 1 or 2 games. I'm not going to go far and say, 3, 4, 5, but Henry To'o and Jalen Pitre, both of those guys are really making a name for themselves by putting together a very promising training camp. And we're going to talk about that on the opposite side of this break.
It's time to get in on the action with FanDuel. The NFL season is around the corner. We're actually here because I don't know about you guys, but I'm excited for these preseason games. You got rookies, you got vets, you got guys trying to make the roster. You got a lot of Super Bowl aspiration teams getting themselves together. And while they're in on the action at training camp, at practice, doing what they do, preparing for the season, you can also get in on the action as well. FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right, guys. There is something for everyone every day, all summer long. Head on over to FanDuel.com or download the app and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of the NFL. Welcome back in, Locked On Texans listeners and viewers. The defense had a good day against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yeah, you may see it was a close game at the end, but around that time, you got threes, you got fours playing.
They should have had us out there playing.
I don't think my body could do it right now. The baby can beat me off.
You don't think you can get out there and,
Listen, look in my eyes. I can't do it right now. But what I can do is talk about it. When you give me 2 weeks, two months, I could be out there. I can talk about it because as I sat back and I watched those starters, and by the way, when we talk about the starting unit, understand this: no Will Anderson was out there, no Christian Harris was out there. We saw some very impressive plays. Go look at Jalen Pitre, man. I thought Jalen Pitre looked very good in his role. Switching him from deep safety to nickel, but when he's around that line of scrimmage, what I saw from him against the Pittsburgh Steelers game is more controlled aggressiveness. And so I think for me, what I'm looking for Jalen Pitre to improve on this year is cutting down on missed tackles, right? But the combination of Henry T and Jalen Pitre, Cody, and listeners and viewers, I thought was a major takeaway from that, positive takeaway from that Steelers game.
And it's not just from that Steelers game. That's been one of the positives that we didn't see throughout this whole entire training camp. And the one thing that I noticed about both of those guys, especially comparing it back to my notes from last year, the one thing about both of those guys, they are not only more confident in the way they go about executing these plays, but they are also taking their time and processing things a lot different. And I think last year, with Henry T, you could kind of give him a pass because he was a rookie, and like I always say, regardless of how we feel about these prospects coming out of college, whether you're the first pick or Mr. Irrelevant, you're going to have you're going to go through a time where it's going to take you a while to get adjusted to the NFL. Some players like CJ Stroud get adjusted fast as hell, and other players like we're seeing with Henry To'oTo'o as of right now, it's going to take them a year. And that's exactly what I'm seeing out of Henry T as of right now, man. He just looked more confident, executing the plays a lot faster. And not only that, knowing what I've known about him dating all the way back to last year, talking to him on and off the record inside the locker room, you can definitely tell that he has a willingness to learn, that he's going to go out there and seek the information. And it's not just from the coaching staff and Coach D'Amico Ryans. It's also from the veterans that you have placed around him. And shout out to Big Sarge, because he has done a very good job highlighting Azeez Al-Shire's impact inside that locker room and on the field, how he has taken these young guys and saying, look, guys, follow me, listen to what I have to say, and you guys are going to thrive on the field. And look, I understand we definitely wanted to see that combination between him and Christian Harris. Unfortunately, we haven't seen it yet. But knowing what Azeez has been able to do to help Henry T with his development going into his second year, John, listeners and viewers, I am happy to say and confident to say that we're definitely going to see that second year leap out of Henry T that we've been dying, that we've been preaching, that we've been hoping to see every time we talked about Henry T throughout this whole entire offseason. Here's what Henry T had to say about his second year development so far.
Henry's been very consistent this time around, and Henry's been a guy that our defense can rely on. He's going to be in the proper position, be where he's supposed to be, and he does a great job with Azeez when it comes to communicating. And that's a huge thing in our defense of communicating, and Henry does a really awesome job of that.
I think confidence is the biggest thing. In this league, you got to be confident in everything you do. So I think my confidence has been consistent every single day, just being able to come out and compete and believing in my abilities and what I can do and contribute to helping this team be the best team that we can. So I try to come with confidence every single day. I got Azeez to lean upon and ask for advice, and he's been huge for me on that part.
Loved it. I loved it, man. And, hearing first from D'Amico Ryans, I don't want you guys to overlook the importance of being able to say and praise a guy for his communication skills. You go back to that Pittsburgh Steelers game, just watch how much the defense moved pre-snap. watch how many times Azeez is moving, Henry is moving. Pitre may come down and Bullock may go back up. Ward may go down and Bullock may go back up. Petre's moving. They are moving a lot defensively. Henry was out there for the bulk of that. I don't have the snaps up right now, but you can see the communication. And you're seeing him kind of, for you guys that are listening, you're seeing him also kind of motion guys and they're talking out on that field. So for your head coach to be a former linebacker, a damn good one, by the way, especially for the city of Houston, where you play, now he's coaching, to know how important that is. And this game is moving so much. The game of the NFL, the game of football is far much more, I think, advanced than where it was when D'Amico was playing. And I thought that D'Amico in the game was starting to change by the time he was starting to phase out of the league and go into coaching. But he took that, and you can see a lot of that in the coaching of what he does. He always talks about communicating with each other. Of course, your coach is going to do that, but I think it's different when your coach was a linebacker. But that's a major point for me. Just praising the guy for how well he communicates out there on the field. And also for Henry, he said, not in that clip, but he also mentioned at his post presser, you guys know I struggled with tackling last year. So I feel like I got to get better at that. The self-reflection from Henry to know this is an area of my game where I got to be better, because if I can't tackle as a linebacker, I'm no good for a team. I can't get on the field. And so you look at some of the growth in that area, just understanding like I got to get better tackling. In this defense, I'm going into year 2. Typically, Cody, year 2 at SI was different from year 1.
Boy, was it? That's why I'm going to Detroit. Boy, y'all just don't know.
But listen, year 1 for the Locked On Texans is different.
Oh, boy, was that different?
Year 5 and year 6. But with more experience, your job is going to call upon you to do more. The expectation and workload, will increase. And so juggling, getting better, and knowing who to lean on. I'm going to Azeez. He mentioned, what is he eating? I'm eating what Azeez eating.
Yes, sir.
Right? I'm emulating what Azeez is doing, who's been a successful linebacker in this league. Not only in this league, but also in this division in the AFC South. Was a top 5 tackler last year. Not only in the AFC South, but also playing under D'Amico Ryans, the head coach in San Fran. So he knows what it takes. And he also understands and knows what D'Amico wants as a head coach from his defense, and specifically from his linebackers. And so I can't speak enough about it. And the one play that stood out the most to me, guys, going back to that Pittsburgh Steelers game from Henry T. Justin Fields was still in the game. Play action, bootleg, roll out. In the past, I would have saw Henry T just get put in a blender, dropping back in coverage. But on that very play, and I do not have the timer down on me right now, but I did post it on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter at John_Hickman12. On that play, bootleg, roll out on the play action. Justin Fields can hit some players. But I want to say it was Pickens coming across, or maybe like a short crossing route. You see Henry T recognize it, get his head around, and get into the zone to take away the pass catcher as an option for Justin Fields. And I think last year that wouldn't have been a play he could have made. And that forced Justin Fields to just run the ball out. I can't remember if he picked up the first down or not, so forgive me. I know I'm having a lot of lapses right now. But specifically speaking to Henry T, taking away an option for the quarterback that would have been a first down, if not more, with the speed of that receiver, I thought that was the play of the game for him, just judging his game. So you look at the growth for Jalen Pitre. You look at the growth for Henry T. 2 guys that I believe desperately needed great off seasons, great preseasons. To this point, forget the one-on-ones, the training camp videos. Forget all of that. In game, I saw a major improvement, but I'm extremely proud and impressed from Henry T going into his second year because not only are we seeing an improvement, but you know what D'Amico Ryans called him? He's a reliable guy for us. We trust him. His exact words were, he called him a guy on our defense you can rely on. Continues with, he's going to be in the proper position, be where he's supposed to be. Yeah, that sounds like a guy that's much more improved from his rookie year, where he got benched in some of those games.
Yeah, and along with Henry T, Jalen Pitre as well, John. I think one of the biggest things for Jalen Pitre is just finally having some consistency in his coaching. You know, first year Lovie Smith, second year was Coach D'Amico Ryans, and we saw how much D'Amico literally changed everything about the Texas defense from the previous year. And Jalen Pitre struggled, but of course, like we mentioned a lot on this show, man, you know, it was literally Jalen Pitre just taking a step back, learning for what he needed to know from Coach D'Amico Ryans. And not only that, I believe that the trust factor between D'Amico and Jalen Pitre is much more better than it was this time last year when you was looking at two guys that was, you know, trying to get a feel for one another. And I never really thought, even in training camp last year, because remember, we started having concerns about Jalen last year in training camp. We was like, man, he's not really making the plays like we saw throughout his rookie season. You know, so I think the trust level there, the consistency is there. And Jalen Pitre with this position change, here's what he had to say about playing closer to the line of scrimmage.
Oh, I love it. You know, it's been fun to, you know, be in the mix, get around, and play something different in D'Amico's scheme. And, you know, like I said, I've been learning a lot of things in and out of the game, all the tape that we have and previous tape from years of guys doing it. So, you know, it's been fun. And like I said, I'm just looking for ways to help the team and, you know, stack these wins. Oh, I enjoy it a lot, you know, and sometimes that can be a little bit of a problem because I think it goes hand in hand with that patience thing like I talk about. But I love getting in there, you know, using my pads and being physical in there. I think that's what the game of football is about. So it's fun to, you know, get in there and move around a little bit for sure.
That was Jalen Pitre just talking about his growth. And I want to bounce back to Henry T really quick. As I look at this play, that definitely was George Pickens that he took out. He just gets his head around so quick and fast. It takes him out of being an option. We got to talk about Justin Simmons. Is it time to give up on the hope of bringing in Justin Simmons for the Houston Texans? I think you guys are going to like what I have to say about a rookie here in Houston that will make you guys a little bit more optimistic about leaving Justin Simmons alone where he's at. More Locked On Texans podcast on the other side of the break. This show is brought to you and sponsored by BetterHelp. What does your schedule look like on an everyday basis, Cody? What does your schedule look like?
Man, well, before the new job, it was waking up, writing articles for SI for Texans, going to Texans training camp, doubling back, going to the Toyota Center, writing articles on Rockets, going to games, coming home, recording. Yeah, it was a lot. It was crazy.
It was a lot. Sometimes your day can get away from you, right? You got that. You got work. You got your kids. You got to pick up your kid. You got to go to the grocery store. You're going to try to work out. What are some of your non-negotiables when it comes to self-care, guys? Maybe you never skip a leg day. Maybe you got to get your 30 minutes in where you can just go for a walk. Or maybe it can be therapy day. When your schedule is packed with kids' activities, big work projects, and more, it's easy to let your priorities slip. Even when you know what makes us even when we know, what makes us happy, it's hard to make time for it. But when you feel like you have no time for yourself, non-negotiables like therapy are more important than ever before. If you are starting to think about getting into therapy, there's no better time to try, and there's no better place than to try it with BetterHelp.com. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suitable to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon to get 10% off your first month today. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon.
Welcome back in, ladies and gentlemen, to this Wednesday installment of Locked On Texans. Before we close out, want to have a little fun. John, you think it's time for Texans fans to give up on Justin Simmons, man? I've called some people to see if I could get a hint on whether or not Justin Simmons was a real thing. Never really heard anything that made me say, oh my God, this is something that you should definitely keep your eye on or anything like that. Now it seems like Simmons has narrowed his choices down between the New Orleans Saints and the Atlanta Falcons. So it seemed like that he definitely wants to go to the NFC South. Do you think it's time to give up? And if so, is that a smart move for the Texans?
I think right now that he's. So let's look at it like this. I'm gonna say some things that may shock y'all if you've been following us for a very long time. Number one, I think Eric Murray is good for this team. Eric Murray has played some good football for the Houston Texans in practice, dating back to last season in his role. There were times where maybe you didn't want to have Eric Murray out there as much as possible. But look at the injuries and look at what transpired in that secondary. But for his role, and I'm looking at the game that he just played against the Pittsburgh Steelers, I thought Eric Murray played some good football. That's number one. So I think in terms of depth, you got to find you as maybe another safety to go along with Eric Murray. MJ Stewart is just not cutting it right now. But I like Eric Murray. Jimmy Ward, who he ain't scared to fight nobody. He was fighting in camp last week at practice. He was also trying to fight and get into the grill of George Pickens against the Pittsburgh Steelers last Friday. Jimmy Ward has looked good. Jalen Pitre rotating in and out of quote-unquote nickel and safety. He's looked good. But I'm going to say something to you guys, and please feel free to either agree or disagree and get on me in the comments before we close out. But I'm looking at a play right now, and in this play, I'm looking at Kalen Bullock come down, lining up over the tight end. Tight end motions. He stays where he's at. Tight ends come back. And I'm looking at Kalen down in the box. I'm looking at him read and react, get off my block. I'm going to make a play and a tackle. Kalen Bullock showed me some things against the run, playing closer to the line of scrimmage, also playing back deep. We know about that one play that almost was an interception, right? When I look at Kalen Bullock, I see a guy that I want to compare to Kyle Hamilton. And when I say that, you guys got to understand how great of a coach I think DeMeco Ryans is, how good of a coaching staff this team has. And I think that DeMeco is going to challenge him in his first year to do some of the things that he believes physically, athletically, Kalen Bullock can do. And I think Bullock, if he didn't play in that atrocious defense at USC, where, by the time the ball got to him, how many people missed tackles? That defense was bad. That defense was Michael Jackson bad, and not in a good way. I think he's going to challenge that young man a lot. And I think that they can somewhat afford to, if you get a healthy season out of Jimmy Ward, if Jalen Pitre continues to ascend in the right direction, if Eric Murray continues to be the good vet in his role that he can be, they can challenge him to do some things defensively. But I look at his size. Yes, he has to get bigger. But we talked about last year, Christian Harris coming in, bulking up under DeMeco Ryans in year two. And naturally, guys bulk up from year 1 to year 2 to year 3 because all you have to worry about is football. So they're going to bulk up. Will Anderson Jr. praised himself for bulking up this offseason and coming back roughly 15 to 20 pounds heavier. That's going to happen. But I can see him coming down on 3rd and 7s and taking on teams' tight ends in a way that Houston can get creative with coverages. They can dial up blitzes because they can trust him to take away options for the opposing offenses. I like that young man. I think he's going to give Houston some real flexibility on the back end of that defense, which would allow them to get creative in the front 7 to find ways to create pressure. And this is a team that doesn't blitz often. 18th in the NFL last year. Maybe that was because of personnel. I'm not sure. Will we see that happen more? And I don't think Houston necessarily has to when you have Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson on the opposite side getting after the quarterback, and the Danielle Hunter that all he has to do is go get the quarterback. But that doesn't take away from the range of an athletic player who is physical, by the way. Don't let his frame and size fool you. He will hit you. He will shed a block. He knows how to use his hands to get off of blocks to go out there and make a tackle. I like the young man. I'm going to liking him. Not rookie year Kyle Hamilton. And I don't think Kyle Hamilton had a phenomenal rookie year for the entire season. Closed out pretty well. But I think he has the traits and tools to be a Kyle Hamilton-like player for this defense. I like him. So with that being said, I think, yes, Houston can give up on Justin Simmons. We have Jeff Okudah did not practice Tuesday, didn't practice Monday. Kamari Lassiter is back. Excited to see him play Saturday against the New York Jets. He's the number 2 cornerback on this roster right now. But beyond him, beyond Jeff Okudah, I'm worried. So I think funds can go in that direction. I still believe this is a thin linebacker group. Shout out to Delshon Phillips. Rewatched the game. I really like that young man fighting for a roster spot. But I still think some of those funds can be allocated to the linebacker group. Money is needed in other places right now. From what I'm seeing, I'm more confident in that safety group than I've ever been before. And I think that's due to excuse me. And I think a large part is due to the play of the young man, rookie Kalen Bullock. Now they got to go up against some better offenses for us to really get a shot and chance to see it. But I like the young man for the Houston Texans defense. Thank you guys for watching today's episode of the Locked On Texans podcast. Please be sure to subscribe, like, and comment to the Locked On Texans podcast on YouTube. And wherever you listen to your podcast, give me a follow on Twitter at John_Hickman12.
And as always, I'm your host, Cody M. Davis. Please remember to follow me on Twitter at CodyDavis_24. Once again, it's Cody, COTYDAVIS_24. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, peace.